him away, and I'm as surprised as you. John Baez is here, former New York NYPD detective. John, let me ask you. It looked as though the task force had decided to write or appear to write or transfer the $10 million that they were looking for. Did they have a choice, essentially?
I believe they did have a choice, and quite frankly, in my own opinion, I would have never transferred the money. I don't believe that you should deal with what they really were as terrorists, and I don't think you should.
Chief Moose made that quote. He says, we decided, and it was brought up to me by an FBI person I was working with, that we will talk to the devil to save a life. Weren't they doing that? Weren't they saving a life by doing the transfer?
Well, we don't know. And quite frankly, I think that they may have killed again. And it's a chance that Chief Moose took. I wasn't in his position, so I'm not criticizing him, but personally, I wouldn't have done it.
We learned over the weekend that apparently Chief Moose did a little acting during one press conference, and that was the day after WUSA Television, Channel 9 down in Washington, released the information about the tarot card. Chief Moose came out and he said he was really angry at the media, but apparently he was told that if he appeared angry, it would restore faith with the snipers in him, and they could deal with him, and they could the snipers could blame the media as well. Is that a standard strategy when dealing with people like this?
Well, it may be a standard strategy, but in this case, they didn't know who they were dealing with, really. So, you know, we don't know if that would have worked, or if it worked, or if it didn't work.
We don't even know if they were watching television. Everybody said, you know, as soon as they do the shooting, they rush home to their house somewhere in Montgomery County and watch TV. They didn't have a house.
Sorry.
No, they were living out of a car with Jersey plates on it.
Yeah. Of course, there's a lot of questions jurisdictionally of where they're going to try the case, but I wanted to ask you a question about sharing of evidence, because one of the arguments from Maryland is that they have the strongest case, they believe, because more shootings happen there. But can't evidence be shared with Virginia, with even Alabama, if that's the case, or the federal prosecutors?
Well, I mean, it could be shared by, in other words, you tell them what type of evidence you have. But to try the case, to use evidence in the Maryland case, in a case in Alabama, I think that's probably would be better for the lawyers to talk about, but I think that might be a problem there to use it in court.
Right. Do you agree, as many do, the profiles have taken a beating through this? They seem to have been off from A to Z, from channel to channel. When they said, one man, two man, it's a white guy, he's 20 years old, it's not about the money. Well, it might well, we don't know for sure, but it might well have been about the money. They might have knocked over banks. They were broke, living in their car.
Right. Yeah, the profilers, many of them were wrong, and it should be a lesson that we learn here, and that we don't narrow our focus too much and rely on these profiles.
Did you use them?
I've used in my career. I've used them, and I found them to be not helpful at all.
They did have some valid points. I mean, they did say it could be an ex-military person, somebody trained in shooting rifles, and that was the case. But
it might have been said that's true, Kieran, but also the 17-year-old might have been pulling the trigger a lot of that time.
Right.
True, but also I think the layman would also have said that as well. I mean, I really do. I think a layman, not a profiler, would say it could be a military guy too. So, you know, we should learn a lesson from this. Let's not pay too much close attention to these profiles.
All right, John, sit right there while we include some of our viewers. Today's question, the jury's out. Who gets the snipers first? Which jurisdiction do you think should try them first?
John, what about the composure we all showed with the fly buzzing on all three of our faces? We didn't even blink. We kept looking at you, making eye contact. Does that deserve some type of credit?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
A trophy for each of you.
All right, good.
In Florida, John joins us. Hey, John.
Good morning, friends, on this sunshiny day. I say try them in Virginia with the most severe punishment. These murderers executed a number of innocent people. Now they should pay with their lives.
John, what do you think of the fact that the Maryland prosecutor came out early, came out Friday, preempted the other jurisdictions?
I kind of see some political motivation here, but we can all be heroes if we get it done the right way and prosecute them. You know, let them pay with their lives. Let's not play politics with this.
All right,
and now you have the Montgomery County Executive, Doug Duncan, looking like he may be backing off a little bit. He made some comments to the Associated Press saying that wherever the case is strongest with the stiffest penalties is where they may need to go. So.
All right. Louisiana, Becky, good morning to you.
Good morning. I totally agree with y'all and the first caller. I definitely think Virginia needs to bring this to a close.
People tell you, I mean, the main thing Doug Gans was saying was part of the healing process. I think if this case leaves the country, I could see that being a problem. But it's not leaving the country. I mean, look, for example, Milosevic. Look what he did to those people. He's being tried by a world court. You don't see everyone in Yugoslavia, or whatever it's called these days, up in arms.
Well, you don't know. Have you been there?
We hear reports. They seem more than happy to let the world prosecute their ex-dictator.
All right.
In Kansas, Melanie. Melanie, good morning to you. Melanie? Melanie, we know you got the phone somewhere. Are you just going to send the kids off to school?
John, do you know where Melanie is as a NYPD detective?
Right now, I don't. Probably, she's probably away from the phone.
Get her
where
profile.
George is. You know where George is. George may be on the phone right now. George?
Yes.
Okay, you're up next. Where do you think they should do this?
Well, I think they ought to do it in the state of Virginia, where the maximum punishment could come through, and I think that the court should impose a minimum wage payment to the defense attorneys so they don't run out all of the appeals and all of the motions and make millions of dollars off of the public tragedy.
Well, you want them to get an appeal if they're entitled to it.
Only when they're paid the minimum wage. Look what it cost us to put McVeigh away, $15 million for
What was it, John?
168 lives.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Gotcha.
John,
Point
how
well
often do you leave would-be killers alone in an interrogation room? That's what happened with Malvi, and he tried to climb out the air shaft. Is that unthinkable to you?
It's not unthinkable, no. I mean, people who want to escape will try to escape, but they certainly should have had somebody watching them, and certainly shouldn't have had an air shaft somewhere in the...
His legs were
interview room.
kicking. He was up in the ceiling.
They grabbed him. John Beza, former NYPD detective, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good week.
Just ahead, how much of a